CNN breaking news. According to sources, Nick Diaz has been offered a fight with one Khamzat Chimaev, who is looking to make his return after his bout with COVID that sidelined him for pretty much all of 2020 and early 2021 thus far. Nick Diaz, though, looks to be on the return. We've seen a lot of photos of him surface over on social media recently, looking in fantastic shape, looking like he's making a return of some sort. What do you think, Ant, about Nick Diaz's potential return? These report according to sources from one Chris Taylor of BJPenn.com.
Here's the thing, like whenever we hear, when's the last time Nick Diaz fought? It was like UFC 183, I believe, against Anderson Silva.
That's correct.
And that was like 2015. Yeah.
January 2015. So yeah, really
like
2015.
That was like true 2015, borderline 2014. I don't get excited about the idea of Nick Diaz coming back because this carrot has been dangled in front of us for far too long. I mean, remember UFC 239 was originally going to have Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, and how excited we got for all about 10 minutes before that was proven to be false. But this time though, it feels different. It feels different. I mean, typically when we heard about Nick Diaz returning, it would be a week or so after we'd see very drunken Instagram stories and his face looking bloated, and he clearly had been having a great time in Vegas. Like that's normally when we'd get these announcements. And then there was that really bizarre interview that he did with Ariel Helwani where he was just kind of like rambling and just and like Nick Diaz level rambling, not just like, okay, Nick Diaz rambles, like beyond that, like a tier above for Nick Diaz level rambling. I wasn't too hot on the idea of seeing him come back if that's what we were going to get. But man, he looks like he's actually been training. He looks physically prepared to fight. And if that's the case, if he is physically there, I'm down to see it, man. So bring it on. I'm going to temper my expectations because I feel like I've seen this movie before. But man, maybe it's a better director this time. I don't know. What do you think?
So here's my feelings on it. Okay, let's say that this is true and that he is planning a comeback, and that Khamzat Chimaev is the potential opponent for a Nick Diaz upon this return. I don't like the fact that I did misspoke earlier. I said all of 2020 for Khamzat being sidelined. I meant the latter half with the 3 failures to book the Leon Edwards fight. You're talking about someone that's in the title picture before he had his bout with COVID, before he was coughing up blood on Instagram photos and stuff like that. We were talking about a guy who was supposed to be, in many people's eyes, one of the best in this division. I don't know what a 37-year-old Nick Diaz is going to look like against a young, hungry lion, Dagestani like wrestler, like type of fighter. Like what? That's the worst possible matchup for a Nick Diaz to return on after his long layoff. After, like we said, since 2015, January of 2015, to return against a fighter like that. That's not the type of fighter we want to see Nick Diaz in there against. I would think. I would want to see Nick Diaz return against somebody that's going to stand and bang with him. And yeah, we've seen Khamzat go out there and one punch KO dudes. So he's got some striking ability, but if he gets clipped hard one time, we know what he's going to go to. He's going to go to that wrestling and just grind out the fight for as long as it takes to either get a stoppage on the ground or run out the clock, whatever the case may be. Stylistically, this is a horrific matchup for Nick Diaz. I would want to see Nick Diaz return. Sure, why not? He's a legend of the sport. He's got the fanfare. Him and his brother, they have the cult following, just like Jorge Masvidal has a cult following now. Those fans are going to be there. They're going to ride with him till the wheels fall off. But know what you're getting in there against. If he signs off on this, that's a gigantic mistake from the Nick Diaz camp, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's also assuming that we're going to see the same version of Chimaev, and that's sort of. I mean, his bout with COVID has obviously been very serious to the point where he was ready to retire, save for the coaxing of Dana White and the threats of Kadyrov. So I'm I think this is sort of stepping into the unknown, having this booking. And I'm not a big fan of this booking either. I mean, beyond the unknown factor, what I do know is that both Nick Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev are people who attract a lot of attention, and certainly among the few star quality names in the sport of mixed martial arts. I wouldn't pit them against each other for that reason, because each person needs to rebuild themselves as a star right now, through legitimate wins. And this does the good for one, but really, really bad for the other. So I imagine if Diaz comes back against Chimaev and he gets absolutely smoked, well, we're really gonna not be too hot necessarily on Nick Diaz's next performance. It will just won't carry the same luster that it could have. If the opposite happens, well, you know, and even if it's Diaz is too high level of an opponent to come back to under those circumstances, man, we're going to have a lot of question marks about what Chimaev has in the sport, what he's left with after his bout with COVID. So I think they need to aim a lot lower for Chimaev, and they need to aim higher and better stylistically for Diaz. This is the perfect time for the Robbie Lawler rematch, the absolute perfect time for that, and that's a fight that we've wanted for a while, and that's a fight that many people thought would be the best for Diaz to return for, and I couldn't agree more right now. Robbie Lawler clearly is not the same level of fighter that he was during his title reign, and Nick Diaz is quite the question mark because of his long layoff. Put them against each other. Stylistically, you know they are going to put on as much action as possible, because that's just how those two would mix up. But it also doesn't do a disservice necessarily to either man. So I'm ready to see that rematch.
That is fantastic matchmaking right there. Good sir. I would agree with you 100% on that, because that makes sense from the name value perspective, and it's not going to come in and like mess up anything with the rankings, right? Because let's say Khamzat comes back and he is the same Khamzat that we thought. That Khamzat would destroy Nick Diaz in 2021. No questions asked. You can put him in there against anyone in the top 15, literally anyone named in the top 15, because they've slid him back in the rankings now. Already, he's number 15 now again, with the announcement of his impending, return to action. Anyone in the top 15, put in there against Khamzat, preferably 10 to 15, somewhere 10 to 14 range rather. That would be anyone like a Bilal Muhammad, a Sean Brady, a Bilal Muhammad. That matchup would be fantastic, because you're talking about a guy who had a lot of momentum before his eye poke situation with Leon, and who's looking to rebound against that. So if you go out there and you're Khamzat and you say, hey, here's a guy with a lot of hype, and take him out, then boom, I'm still here. Let's do the Leon fight again or something. And I mean, obviously Leon's booked, but that would propel him into the top 5 once again on the short list for a title shot, because that's what the UFC was trying to do before COVID. Keep Nick Diaz away from people in the title picture. Robbie Lawler, perfect matchup for me as well. I love that. Let us know in the comments below, who would you like to see either one of these men fight? Do you like the matchup of Nick Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev? Do you like the idea of Nick Diaz returning? I'm sure that would be a yes. But let us know how you're feeling about it, and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We would greatly appreciate it. And thanks for the click.
You've been baited.